Okay, picking up in section 4. Remember, the most recent thing to happen was the tremors of the earth were much, much stronger this particular night than they had been. Mater, this would be the mother of Pliny the Younger, so my mother, broke into, or burst into, my bedroom. And then he says we're going to have a subjects change to the first person. Remember, the whole letter is in Pliny's first person perspective. I was rising, or I was getting up. And vicem, in turn, meaning like basically at the exact same time. And this is all going to be kind of implied because he had recognized the danger of the tremors as well. About to awaken, sorry, this would be a future active participle, so it can take a direct object, and we're going to imply his mother as an aeom, her. So Pliny is the one about to awaken, or intending to awaken her, and then we have this very brief contrary to fact condition, if she was asleep. All right, so mother broke into my bedroom, or burst into my bedroom. I was rising or getting up in turn at the same time. I about to awaken her if she was asleep. So she just basically got there first. All right, once everybody's awake, we sat in the open area, or courtyard, in aurea domus. Remember, domus is fourth declension, so this is going to be the genitive singular of the house, in the courtyard of the house. The courtyard is the antecedent of quare, which was dividing, or separating. The direct object is going to be your neuter mare, neuter accusative singular, which was dividing the sea from the houses. And then we have an ablative degree of difference by a moderate interval. So this would be a seaside courtyard. Then he says, I doubt or I hesitate, and then we're going to slide right into a deliberative subjunctive. I doubt or I hesitate whether I ought. This is the subjunctive form, first person, from debeo to ought, whether I should or ought, to call. And we have two adjectives here. We're going to imply the real direct object of to call, his behavior in this moment, as either courage or steadfastness, and he'll describe his behavior, considering in the forthcoming part of the letter. So I doubt whether I ought to call this steadfastness or foolishness. We can have imprudence or foolishness for this word, or constantiam can be either courage or steadfastness. And basically he's just going to try to really play it cool for the rest of the letter, not act like there's a natural disaster going on, and in hindsight, somewhat also based on his age, which is our very next couple lines here, he's not really sure, again, whether he should call this courage or foolishness because of the severity of the situation. Perhaps the rational thing would have been to be a little bit more concerned than how he actually acted. All right, so he says, I was living in my 18th year. We would say he was 17, because the Romans calculated your age based on the year that you were currently experiencing. So, based on the way that most modern people calculate age, if we were to say you were 16 years old, you've already completed 16 years of your life. You are currently living in the 17th year, which you have yet to fully complete until we celebrate your 17th birthday. And so this was just sort of calculated slightly differently. So by our terms, he was 17, but he says, I was living in my 18th year. I asked for or demanded a book, a librum, of Titus Livy. And this would be the historian, Ab Urbe Condita, covering the story of the founding of Rome all the way up through the late Republic and its downfall. And I read, lego, or I read, that is present tense, quasi, as if through leisure. And I think we can interpret this somewhat as he was nervous, but he's really playing it cool, like any other day, taking a book off the shelf and reading as if nothing serious was going on. And that's where the quasi comes in, as if through leisure. And even as I began, koperam, as I had begun, that's going to be pluperfect, I annotated or take notes. Literally, this is to pick out excerpts. So we would kind of picture this as note-taking, annotating, very kind of actively reading as he went along. So as I had begun, I annotated. Behold, a friend of my uncle, who, new pairs are adverb, who recently had come, venerat, to him, meaning to my uncle, from Spain, and that friend of the uncle is still the subject of videt down here. He saw, and we would start with the ut, as he saw, me and mother. Although those are both singular, they're going to be sharing this participle describing them both, sitting. And even me especially, I'm translating vero here as especially, reading. So as he saw me and my mother sitting, and he even saw me especially reading, he criticized the patience of her. It's going to be referring to Pliny's mother. And he also criticized my lack of concern. And he's now going to be describing himself as I, inactive or sluggish, by no less, and focused, intentus, again describing him, and he's focused in librum on his book. All right, always remember, take it from the top one more time while everything's fresh, and you'll be well suited to cover this again in class with the grammar questions tomorrow. Good luck.